The Central Club.
What's going on, people? Welcome to the Central Club. This episode is brought to you by Reinspire Printing, Boss Security, and Tidy Comps. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the club, and hit the bell button to be notified of future content. I don't really want to say too much. I'm actually speechless with the interview we have just done. Hands down, one of the best ones, one of the rawest, one of the most honest, and one of the most complicated. She's fighting battles on all fronts, and she's representing a massive communities. I'm not going to say too much more, but just I hope you enjoy this one. Stay central. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Luna Evans.
Hey,
Thank you for coming.
you're welcome.
How are you?
I'm good, yeah.
Good. You're looking amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Big towel in the background as well. Thank you. How's things?
Yeah, doing good. Things are doing a lot better at the moment. Things are on the mend, slowly and steadily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that counts. isn't it,
Yeah.
We've come into contact in the maddest of ways.
Yeah.
But I always think that things happen for a reason,
Of
and
course.
I think the life you've lived, what you represent, and the story you've had should be shared. People should listen to this and hear this, because I know for 1,000,000% that you inspire so many people without them realizing. And I
Yeah.
think if you put your story out there on the Central Club, I think you will help so many others who are maybe lost in life or trying to get through something. So thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
First thing we like to do with everyone, Luna, is go back to the start. And how was your childhood?
Well, childhood-wise, I had a pretty good childhood, to be honest. It wasn't this traumatic childhood which some people have when they start drugs and things. Honestly, it was okay. A bit of a mentally abusive stepdad. But besides from that, everything was rosy. My mum was brilliant to me, amazing grandparents. Not a lot to complain about, really, apart from the fact of not being able to come out and be my true self, really, and being forced to be a bit of a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you was born, you was named Lewis, yeah? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
my name, dad name's Lewis. Yeah, so not too happy about being treated like a boy. But obviously I was born a boy, so that's how my parents pushed me, and they weren't to know, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think back them times, like, it's only more as recent, really, that like we've really raised awareness of these type of things, when
Transgender issues weren't a thing then, really.
Yeah.
It wasn't known about. We weren't educated on it. We were told you're either gay or straight. It was all about sexuality. We weren't told about gender, and it was kind of having to discover it for myself, really.
Yeah, so I can imagine, for so long it's just, is he gay? Is he gay?
Yeah.
It's the gender is not even registering in people's minds.
No, if you've seen a guy in girls' clothes, you never thought, oh, they identify as a woman. You just thought, that's a guy who likes dressing as a girl.
Yeah,
You know?
a bit eccentric, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up as a boy, what were some of the things that you went through? Like, did your parents put you through some kind of activities, maybe like boys stuff and anything like that, or?
Well, yeah. Air cadets was the big thing. My stepdad is ex-army, so he pushed me down the military route. I think they wanted me to join the army and that kind of thing. So air cadets was a big part of my childhood, really. Like rifle shooting, flying aircraft, orienteering, doing parade, that kind of thing. Not what I wanted to be doing, if I'm honest with you. I had to have short back and sides hair. Yeah, it wasn't really what I wanted.
Was you any good at that?
To be honest, I was actually very good at it.
Yeah.
that was the worst part about it. But the rugby as well. I was forced to play rugby.
Sure.
I was a winger. I was tall and skinny, so yeah, I was a winger. I could run fast, and if there was guys trying to rugby tackle me to the ground, I was very good at running fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't let me do really what I wanted to be doing. chances of being able to wear makeup and things like that weren't on the cards really.
I think even for children who know what they are, if they're boys and they want to be boys, sometimes they're pressured into playing rugby and other things that their parents want anyway. Do you see what I mean there? Like, so there's everyone who goes through stuff in childhood that, sometimes they don't really want to do it. They're doing it for their parents, like, innit? So,
yeah, you do it to try and impress your dad and that kind of thing. And I think it's a big reputation thing for parents as well, isn't it? If they've got a son that's doing well and doing the boy things, and they can say to their friends, "Oh, my son's good at rugby," or "My son's in air cadets, he's going to be in the Air Force." Or
especially if it's the field they were in as well. Following suit and trying to mold them to be the perfect you.
The funny thing is when I come out as gay, I was told, "Oh, you can't join the army because you're gay." So
my god,
they kind of contradicted themselves then.
Yeah, so then he definitely didn't want you to be gay. I want you in the cadets.
Yeah.
I get you. So when did you start noticing changes?
When I started puberty, to be honest with you, when I started puberty, I knew something was wrong. I was very happy as a kid, to be honest. I was smiling and that kind of thing. But as soon as puberty started, I was very confused, to be honest. It was like I wasn't into girls the same way as all the other guys in my year were. I started wearing girls' clothes on non-uniform days. I actually stole my mother's clothes and wore them under my clothes and snuck into school, and then I kind of stripped off in school and wore her clothes. And to be honest, no one said a thing and no one bullied me for it. I was able to be myself,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But Mum didn't know.
Mum didn't know. I think Mum would kill me if she found out.
Really?
And she will find out now, probably. But
you know what you make it. You telling us on the podcast is the first time she fucking knows.
Yeah.
So what? School was great then, would you say? Or
I was bullied a lot.
Okay.
Bullied a lot in school, mainly for being gay. I was like one of the only gay guys in school. Remember a time quite vividly when I kissed a guy on the playground, and I was chased by a swarm of school children. I literally through the school, and I was pulled into a classroom by a teacher and told, "Oh, you need to keep this on the down low. You can't."
Really?
Yeah, it was a bit.
It's like they all rebelled against you.
Yeah,
you fucking kissed.
Yeah, they were rebelling. They weren't happy, and that kind of changed my mindset of, oh, maybe I can't be myself, and it's not okay to be myself. Yeah. School was quite tough, to be honest. I was the typical emo kid, long fringe, listening to metal, a bit of an outcast kind of thing. Like in school, we had
as if that's fucking not enough.
In school, we had a thing called Mosher Hill. I don't know if you remember moshes when you were in school.
It's like
that's
emos, isn't it?
Emos and moshes. It was like a tree, and all the moshes hang around there. We all got picked on, but that's where we were.
And the boy you kissed, was he popular? Was he just a random guy?
No, he wasn't very popular either. He was a typical floppy haired emo. But I thought he was gorgeous, to be honest. But yeah, it was a bit of a difficult time coming out.
Yeah. So when you left school, did you socially still struggle, or was it a blessing for you? School's finished, I can kind of be a bit more of who I am. Or
I'm autistic, so the autism has always got in the way a little bit. Social interaction, eye contact, things like that are always a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
But when I left school, it was okay. I can be myself now. And I started dating guys, which was great. Not having to be chased around the school anymore. Yeah, but when I left school, then I dated this guy who was a lot older than me, and we got into quite an abusive relationship. So that put me off guys. Then, to be honest with you, it was right, I'm not going to be with a guy anymore because I don't want to be abused. I'll go with what my family want. They want me to be with a woman, so I'll be with a woman. And I found my first long-term girlfriend then.
At the time, did you identify as a female, or did you? Because you said, we didn't know at the time if it was gay or gender. Did you identify as a female?
To myself, yes. When I left school, but not to the
No.
world and not to everyone because I
So
was scared.
yeah, of course. And at that time, then, not only you're not with not going out with boys, going out with the girl to keep your mother and father happy. So you're a lesbian now.
Yeah, literally.
You're a lesbian.
Yeah. So yeah, I was rocking the lesbian vibe, but
Without them knowing.
yeah.
And what was that like? What how did that work?
To be honest, we were best friends. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, we were best friends. It was a good relationship in that respect. We were very close. We told each other everything. The only problem was when it came to the bedroom, really. That's when things got a bit flaky. Obviously, I had to open up to her about me being transgender and not wanting to have sex conventionally because of dysphoria and that kind of thing. And yeah, it was a bit difficult.
So what would go down there?
Yeah, I think you know what's
The
going
details.
down. Well, I'll be open, front, and honest about it. That was when I first got into pegging.
Okay. Good to
yeah,
know for
yeah.
other people,
I wanted to be with guys, so that was the only way I could have sex without being with a
And
guy.
how did she handle that?
She said it was okay, but I know deep down it wasn't okay because at the end of the relationship, all the anger come out about that.
The truth comes
The
out.
truth came.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was revealed to me that she wasn't very happy about that.
Yeah, and of course, she's the female. She's obviously wanting penetration.
Yeah,
And it's the other way around. Like, so it must have been a bit of a mad situation.
it was. And there was a lot of sleeping on the sofa.
Yeah. Did mum and dad have any idea of your feelings, the way you felt at this time, or was you still keeping it under wraps? And
No, I think they thought, yeah, I might be bisexual or that kind of thing, but they didn't know my true feelings. She actually turned out to be quite horrible towards the end of the relationship. And my mum, I remember a conversation with my mother, but you're gay, so why are you with her? And I was like, for fuck's sake, I'm doing this for you.
it must have been so confusing for you at that time.
It was, because I was trying to be myself, but I couldn't be. So I was trying to keep them happy. And then in the end, they're the ones telling me you're gay, why are you with her? And I was quite...
I think this is where things
headfuck.
where people in life now get confused or get scared by it all, because it is just, it is a mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, not that you've caused a mess. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is it is hard to grasp and work your head around. Well, I was born this way, but I identify this way, but I'm seeing this person to keep you happy,
Yeah.
but this is making me this. And, so it gets complicated, don't it?
I think it's a lot easier for kids these days. Obviously, they're able to start
Yeah.
transitioning at like 13, 14. A lot of people don't agree with that, which I'm aware.
What's your take on that?
I think, yeah, it's okay to start transitioning, but when it comes to medical decisions, I think that should be saved to 18, personally.
Because I've had this conversation with someone. I wanted to know your take on this. I said it on a previous podcast because they were talking about transgenders, but there was a girl I grew up with and she was a proper tomboy, proper tomboy. She battered everyone in rugby, football, everything. And then like when she was like 18, 19, she just switched to the feminine side.
Okay.
But like she was like, if I was like in this era now, I'd probably have got to change and probably regret it down in the line. I think that's the worry that people have in it, that they might be pressured into something that they not like don't want to do because they clearly want it, but they might not be 100% sure on.
Is the risk of making a mistake, isn't it? Like with me, obviously I grew up without the gender service being in the UK. Well, I had to fight for it. I had to work for my operation. I had to push a lot of, like, push really hard, you know, and fight to be myself. It wasn't just handed to me on a plate when I was 13. And I think it's okay to encourage your children to wear the clothes they want, to dress the way they want, behave the way they want. But when it comes to having operations before 18 and starting testosterone or T blockers, I think it could be a mistake which they regret. And yeah.
It's probably one of the most mature things I've heard, you know. Literally, like, that is, well, that's what I agree with. And
Yeah.
but it sounds like it makes sense.
I just don't think it should be the parents' decision because, of
Yeah.
course, it is down to the parents' consent.
Well, you know, you might get a parent who, you know, wanted to have a girl,
Yeah.
grew a boy, in the same way as, you know, your stepdad's wanted you to be in the military. Yeah, like, yeah, be a girl, be a girl. Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It could be encouraged. And I'm not saying that happens in all cases, but it could
No,
be. And they could, if they get an inkling that they want to be that way, they could push them down that path. And that's a big change to make, you know? Like, you don't want to be regretting having top surgery, and you definitely don't want to be regretting having bottom surgery because they're not reversible, you know? And you don't want to make that mistake.
Well, it would probably be a mess, wouldn't it? Because,
Yeah.
you know, I can imagine the reverse, the first reverse would be hard anyway, you know? It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, top surgery can be reversed. You know, obviously you'll get some scarring, that kind of thing. But bottom surgery, as far as I'm aware, you're not able to go back once you made that decision.
Yeah. Okay. You were secretly escorting at this time as well, wasn't you?
When I was with her, yes, I was. I first went on the escorting site, which I'm still on now, as a boy, and sneaking off, seeing clients and coming back with a wad of cash and pretending I was drug dealing.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's the way I got around it. I used to sell a bit of weed at the time, and that's where I said the money was from. And
Wow.
she never knew.
What was business like then? I can imagine it's always been booming, having it, because there's demand there. But was
Yeah.
you surprised with some of the clients you get?
Yeah, I was surprised how many people were interested at first because, like, as a kid, to be honest, I was quite, you know, not sure of myself. I didn't think I was good at looking. Wasn't confident in my looks. And I kind of went on there at first to kind of make some money and didn't really think it would work. And when I started getting messages and calls, I was like, okay, maybe things are going
Yeah.
okay here, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, so you're making this money. You've got this relationship, which is probably on the rocks, you'd say.
Yeah.
So where did that go from you then going to the doctors and, you know, basically breaking it with your partner as well?
Well, it was towards the end of the relationship, I started speaking to her about my feelings, and I kind of got hit with a wall of you're this, you're that. A lot of transphobic abuse, really, you call it now. And that's why it fizzled out in the end, because it ended quite explosively.
Yeah.
And when it ended, I was like, right, I'm not getting ignored anymore. I need to get the help. And I went to the doctors and told them how I felt. And I was shut down completely, to be honest. I was told, even by a doctor, which I now have apologies from, and they've apologized for their decision at the time, but there was no gender team at that time. And they told me that I was just a gay guy who liked dressing as a woman.
Oh, fucking hell.
And that was just like, it's complete deflation from that, you know?
There was no doubt, maybe? Was there ever a time with self-doubt, maybe, where it was like, maybe they're right? Or was
Yeah.
you adamant all along that, no, I'm a female?
I knew I was right, you know, and I knew how I was feeling was true, being true to myself. And it was just, to be honest, it was making me angry at that time. It was like, why is everyone disagreeing with me,
Yeah.
you know?
They're probably the only people you would think would understand as well.
The people that were closest to me were the people that were telling me I was wrong. And I was researching online and telling these people online, well, it's being told by people online that it's this way and you can be yourself, come out to your friends, come out to your family. And it just didn't go down well at all, you know?
So your next move is going onto Google search
Yeah.
engine.
Yeah, it was a Google to see where in the world is okay to be transgender and where's the best place to transition and be supported by the community you're in. And Amsterdam popped up. And I had already been to Amsterdam a few times growing up with my girlfriend, mainly to smoke weed.
So when this came up, it was more of a cha-ching.
Yeah, it was
I reckon it wasn't. I reckon it just come up in the algorithm because when searching Amsterdam.
Yeah, it was like I would search
You
it so
like
many times.
Amsterdam,
Yeah, but it was like, okay, I could see myself living there, you know?
And I want to ask you an honest question.
Yeah,
Was it, yeah,
yeah.
the most searched Amsterdam for accepting trans, or was it because business would be booming for male escorting?
Yeah.
Which one?
I think it's a combination. of the
Okay,
two.
all right, we'll give you that.
Let's be honest. It was a combination
Yeah,
of the two.
okay.
It was, like Amsterdam is the gay capital of Europe. Is the most accepting place to be yourself, and people, you should see the sights you see in Amsterdam. The way people walk down the street there, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing about it, and that's what pulled me in initially about it. But then obviously I knew I could make money escorting there and make money doing sex work because it's legal there too,
Yeah. And you told me before, which I it just sounded mad, but you was Lewis in Cardiff. But when you got off that plane, you landed as Luna.
Yeah. When I got out of that plane, everyone who asked me my name, I'm Luna. And that was so freeing, and because obviously they're all new people. So no one questioned it. No one said, "Oh, you're Lewis."
Well, if you, like I said this before, like, because like if you meet someone for the first time, maybe growing up they've always had, blonde hair with a square bowl, yeah, and then if they have a Mohican, all their friends are like, "What have you done with your hair? That's fucking nuts." But if I bumped into you and I've never met you before, and I see you with a Mohican, that's how I envision you. That this is you.
Yeah.
You don't look weird to me. It's like a fresh slate, and it's weird.
That fresh slate was the best thing about it. It was the best feeling of my life. And I got taken to the airport by my dad. I told him I was going to Amsterdam to grow weed.
Oh well, at least he accepted that.
He knew I loved weed, and I knew he wouldn't buy like me going over there to do like a normal job. I've never done like normal work, and I thought if I tell him I'm doing that, I'm being
perfect excuse.
Yeah, it's an excuse to go and something that he would believe. He later on found out, as you can imagine, which he still never actually told me his true feelings on. But yeah, he took me there, and I was shitting myself when I got on that plane, but it was the right decision.
You say it was the best feeling.
Yeah.
Would you say it was the best time of your life?
At first, it was the freedom that he gave me, and I've never really made such a big decision in my life, and it was several big decisions, wasn't it? It was being able to move abroad, being able to be yourself, and all these things combined was just like amazing.
And how old are you at this time?
I was 21.
Big decision.
Yeah.
And being 21, you moved to Club 21.
Yeah, Boys Club 21.
That's the first thing you've done.
Yeah. Before I arrived there, I rang up Boys Club 21, which is the last gay brothel in Europe. And I asked them for a job, sent them some photos. They were like, "Yeah, you can come." So my first job when I started was working there. On the second day I arrived, got a job in a place called Hill Street Blues as well, which is like a dive bar, like smoking cafe type thing. They don't sell weed, but you can smoke weed there and you can have a drink.
That's why they call it a dive bar, is it?
Yeah.
You just dive in and do what you want.
Yeah, to be honest, it was chaos. Imagine people taking magic mushrooms, smoking weed, and drinking alcohol all in the same place. It was pretty messy. But it was fun.
Fucking bad.
Yeah, but that was like minimum wage, you know. But that was my opportunity to get started as well, because they were able to advance me some money when I started.
Oh, nice.
They looked after me, you know. They knew me from when I visited Amsterdam and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was jumping back between Boys Club and Hill Street Blues for the first week or so. I then met my first boyfriend when I arrived, and I met through
Julian.
Yeah, Julian. I met him through Grindr.
Shout out to Grindr.
Shout out to Grindr, yeah. Obviously, had Grindr on my phone. Why wouldn't I? I was in a new place. But I met him first time in Hill Street Blues. We arranged to meet there. I bought him a glass of wine. We had a chat, and told him my situation. I only had a week booked in a hotel. I was a bit scared about where I was going to go next. And there and then he gave me the key to his flat and said I could move in, which was quite a shock, to be honest.
Was you alarmed at any moment? Was you worried?
Yeah,
red flags?
Of course I was. I was absolutely shitting myself. Why is this guy letting me move in, you know? Obviously, I was cautious, you know. I was wondering his agenda. I was wondering why he was doing this. But you know what? It turned out that he was just a good guy.
Yeah. He was a HIV activist, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He worked for HIV Justice. He was in the Gay Liberation Front. Very big in the Activision. Not Activision, that's it.
Couldn't have found a better person then. Very big in the Activision.
Yeah. He was
in the
a big
HIV
activist.
game.
Yeah, he was big, and he was actually paid to advise government bodies on HIV not legalization. What's the correct word for that? HIV issues, legally, you know, because
campaigns and stuff.
Yeah, like HIV hasn't always been so supported as it is. It was quite a.
So we fought for that.
Yeah, he was part of the generation
in
where,
a melting pot of Amsterdam, this rife with, you know.
Yeah,
it must have been big.
Yeah, it's gay capital of Europe. Obviously, HIV is big. You know, it's a big issue. But I just thought he was really inspirational. Really, you know, and he was non-binary. He used to dress in drag, that kind of thing. When he was younger, he was just, you know, all around an amazing person, to be honest with you.
Yeah. This time here, you know, where we'll go into what happens. Would you say this is like the best time though? Fondest memories, would you say?
It was and it wasn't. At this time, bear in mind, I'm autistic. I'm quite severely mentally ill. I hear voices. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I struggle, you know. And when I arrived there, I had no medication. I had no mental health support. At this time, I wasn't even diagnosed with autism, so I was a mess.
Yeah,
you know. And all I can say is, good thing all I did was smoke weed at this time. You know, I didn't do hard drugs at this point, so I was erratic as it was, and I don't know why Julian put up with me, to be honest with you. Yeah. I was hard work, you know.
Has mum and dad tried contacting you? You know, the week's run out now. You're living in Damsdale with a HIV activist.
Yeah.
Have they tried contacting you if you just, you know, face off the earth? What is it?
Well, they told me I would be back within a week.
Oh, you won't.
Yeah.
You won't handle it.
You won't handle it. You won't do this. You bullshitting and this kind of thing. Don't think you're going to come live with us when you come back, that kind of. And I think part of it was, I'm going to prove you guys wrong. But yeah, they were contacting sporadically. I've never had a really close relationship with them. My mum, I've been always a bit closer to out of everyone in my family. I could tell she loves me, you know. I would always make sure I let her know I was okay, but it wasn't like an everyday.
Yeah.
Hi, mum. It was once a month or twice a month, just going, yeah, I'm still alive.
Yeah. You soon moved to the Windows. You've been in Club 21, which I'm assuming at that time is just like any old brothel. Where you come in, meet the guys, is it?
It was a special brothel, to be honest. I know that sounds silly, and I know people look at hookers like we're a bit. Bit scummy or whatever.
The 21 was prestige, you saying?
Boys Club 21 was the only one. It was the only gay brothel. So
the only gay in the village.
Only gay in the village, yeah. It was, it was the only gay brothel. So it was on the gay map of Europe, which is like a tourism site. Wow. So you had a lot of people visiting there. I ended up looking after a lot of the boys there and making sure they were okay when they started. I was like the main person working there, had a lot of responsibilities. The owner looked after me a lot. So I'll never criticize that. And it was amazing. Like, we had some crazy times there. Like, I had this one sex party I used to arrange once a month, which is like a BDSM party. I had to arrange the boys to be there. It was like 15 guys in a room doing BDSM. It was crazy.
We're all having sex.
Yeah, all having sex with like whips and chains and crazy stuff. And like the guy who used to come, like we would walking down the street with a lead and collar.
This is the guy whose party it is.
Yeah.
Once a month, a ritualistic fucking.
We used to walk him around the shops and tell him.
Go for my dog lead.
We were walking into the shops and telling him what he needed to buy us. He liked being dominated, so me and my boyfriend at the time were in charge of him.
And you'd make dough off it.
A lot of money. Like in the 3 days you'd be there, we'd make between 7,000 to 9,000 euro. Which in sex work game is quite a lot of money for such a short period of time, really. But he actually went on to look after me during COVID. He was sending me 2,000-3,000 euros a month just to say, thanks for looking after me.
Thanks for treating me like a dog.
Yeah, basically. Or
thanks for those great days.
He was doing all of this without his boyfriend knowing.
Yeah.
Doing all this without his boyfriend knowing. His boyfriend only actually found out because when he was in hospital, he actually pulled all these wires and shit he had on him off. And he's in the toilet, filmed on webcam with me, twisting his nipples and all this kind of crazy shit. And his boyfriend walks into the toilet to check he's okay. And he finds out, doesn't he? And then the money stopped. Oh, but yeah, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. Then those clients, those, not that I know, but what I'm saying is, like, even when I was on drugs and I was raising, it was people like sitting, you could hit, like, do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
I bet when that was gone, it was like, fuck.
Yeah, like,
good one.
I relied on him, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially when I started using, not hard drugs, but I started using drugs. It was supporting my lifestyle. I could pay for parties. I could do crazy things without really having to do much else to work.
Were there any other creepy people you come across at that time?
Yeah, there was a guy. he basically worked on. He ran like an oil rig, so he was on crazy money. He owned like an oil rig company, so obviously oil's big business. I won't name his name, obviously, but he was quite a large man, walking stick. He would come into a room screaming and shouting. He was quite a figure. I remember walking into coffee shops with him just screaming hashish at the shopkeeper. And he would literally buy the whole coffee shop's worth of hash. he would sell them out there, and then they're only allowed to buy 5 grams in Amsterdam. That's the rule. But we would have to have quiet conversations with the bud tender and say, look, we're going to buy everything. And we'd walk out the back room with a massive bag of weed. And he just loved his weed, you know. But he was funny in his own way. He ripped us off a few times, and we were doing good money off him every time. But I think to this day, he still owes me about 5 grand. But yeah.
And what kind of things would he want off you?
He was quite conventional. He just wanted normal sex. I specialised in BDSM. He wasn't into any of that. But he was just quite regular. But it was just the heads that would turn when he would be walking around the street with 4, 5, 18, 21-year-old boys. And everyone's probably wondering, why the fuck are they with him?
What was it, this place or a place else where there was known with the paedophilia?
Well, Spouwstraat. Before I went there, we had basically 3, 4 gay brothels, and they all closed down due to paedophilia. Underage escorts working there. My one boyfriend actually worked in one of the clubs, and it was all shut down for this issue, you know. And Boys Club was the only
stayed legit
lasting one.
I got you.
And it was shocking, to be honest. Like, if you Google Spouwstraat paedophilia, it'll come up.
So is that an area or is that a brand of businesses?
Spouwstraat is the street.
And it was just non-brothels everywhere, like.
It was 3. There was 3 big brothels, and they were crazy. By the stories I've heard, they weren't only for that. You know what I mean? But it went under the radar.
Yeah.
And it's not just Amsterdam. You know what I mean? Like, the sauna in Cardiff was done for similar issues. You know what I mean? It's
which one?
The Eagle sauna.
Is that a gay bar? Is it?
It was the gay sauna.
Where was that based?
On Charles Street.
Okay.
They had issues with underage guys going in and that kind of thing. So I'm not saying children, you know what I mean? They're not children. It's like 16, 17-year-old boys, same as it was in Amsterdam. They're not kids, but it's still not right, you know.
Did you witness any trafficking over there?
First hand, I never seen any trafficking. I seen a lot of guys who had pimps. Myself, I had pimps during my time, and some pimps don't treat girls right, you know. And I seen a lot of abuse. I've seen a lot of financial abuse as well.
Yeah.
Especially in the windows.
Well, this is what we wanted to go on to, because I think Club 21 was a gay bar.
Yeah.
And you're identifying as a female.
So eventually, as you can imagine, I didn't fit in. I started wearing what you'd probably call chicken fillets, the like fake breasts. I was wearing wigs. I was dressing in girls' lingerie. So a lot of guys that come through the door weren't into me anymore. So one of the guys that was drinking there, who I started dating, actually told me about the windows, and he introduced me to one of the window brothels, and I then started working there. And I was so excited because it was like, I'm finally being seen as a female, you know. I was no longer having to work in a gay club. It was empowering, and I know that sounds silly.
No.
But to be able to wear women's clothes behind the windows, have guys coming past telling me how hot I am and that kind of thing, it was cool, you know? It was a big confidence boost. And I know a lot of people wouldn't find that interesting. They wouldn't want to go down that path of life. But to me, it was a means to an end as well. It was to pay for my surgery and that kind of thing. So in my eyes, it was a good decision.
All of this was, a goal to get your surgery.
Yeah, and it was a big step for me, confidence-wise as well. Because bear in mind, I can't give much eye contact. I can't I struggle to talk to people.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the window dancing in one of the busiest streets in Dewallen, you know?
So how does someone go from, being empowered, it's a massive boost, you're feeling really alive in yourself for once in your life, you're making good money, to, using hard drugs?
Well, it's complicated, you know? Like I've said before, it was the street dealers rife in Amsterdam, you know? And they push on the girls. They'll give a lot of tech and that kind of thing, to kind of say, right, we'll give you these drugs. You don't have to pay, but you can sell them on. And yeah, you try some. And I regret trying some. And
Some of the drugs you taken.
the main drugs, though, I started using was crystal meth, GHB, ecstasy, cocaine.
So, in the UK, we get waves of people saying, yo, there's crystal meth on the streets, there's fentanyl on the streets, but
Yeah.
we're not really there. What is it like taking crystal meth?
Initially, it was the best feeling of my life. It's a rush. You go from being able to work a 3-hour shift to being able to work a 9-hour shift. The energy you get from it is intense, you know? And the combination of that with the GHB, you just become, to be honest, a sexual being. And it allows you to work in the windows without having too many inhibitions and without worrying about what you're doing. You kind of do things more freely. And I've probably done a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have done sober, you know, and I was able to work 6 days a week now instead of 3 days a week. It all became very intense when I started using that drug.
Yeah. So it enhanced your work at the
Yeah.
beginning, and that was probably one of the reasons why you done it.
A lot of girls in Amsterdam use crystal to push themselves,
Wow.
you know.
But, obviously side effects to it.
Yeah.
Aggressive, angry. Did you turn?
Yeah.
Did you start to turn?
Yeah, I became very harsh. I was still myself, but if someone tried to rip me off or someone tried to, well, anyone disrespected me, really, I was very quick to get aggressive. And I do regret this. You know, I'm not a mean person. I'm not an aggressive person. But I was when I was using crystal. I was fighting everyone at my first chance. And that's not good luck.
What was the difference? Was there a difference? Sorry, in the sex work you was, handling out in the windows to Club 21.
It become I don't know how to describe it. It become less, probably not the right word, but it become less classy. And Boys Club was very official and very, controlled, and you were only doing normal sex and it wasn't anything crazy.
Are the windows more, on your ones, Wild Westy?
Yeah, it is. It's like comparison to like a drug dealer, for example. You know what I mean? You felt more rough. It felt harsher. It was more dangerous. Like I had guns put to me. I had knives put to me. It became very dangerous.
By people who,
by clients. Yeah,
they're carrying guns.
yeah. Guns are rife in Amsterdam, and people don't realize this. Yeah, it's
and the reason that can you give an example?
money. They want to take your money. You know what I mean? If you haven't got a pimp, you haven't got someone collecting your money from you in the window, you've got sometimes thousands stacked up in the window. And all you've got protecting that money from people is a tiny little locker. I mean, they know you've got the key to that locker. So they'll do anything to get that money from you.
And are these people having sex and the money, or are these just people just coming up to rob you?
Some people will say, oh, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do this. The moment they come in is aggression, Some will have sex and then regret it and then try and rob you, but some people specifically go into the windows to rob the girls. We've got security, we've got things like that, we've got panic alarms, but if they act quick enough, there's nothing you can do. Like, I was actually robbed twice, and like what I always said to the other girls and what we were always taught is if someone puts a knife on you or something like that, you're gonna just give it to them. You're not gonna fight them. You can't fight a knife. You can't fight a gun. You just hand it over. You know what I mean? It's not worth a night's earnings. So you get stabbed over $1,000. You wouldn't do it, you know?
Did you coerce people at all?
I influence people.
Oh, very careful. Very careful.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much, but
Yeah.
the drugs made me very clever at getting money from people. So obviously I wanted to keep using, I wanted to keep that lifestyle, and I become quite mean. And if they paid up front, I probably wouldn't turn up. And that's just the way it was, and I feel like a dick for doing it now, you know, but
yeah.
it is what it is.
And all of a sudden, it's turning into doing this for, you know, fun and to, you know, get my operation to, it's not fun. I'm trying to shortcut fucking this guy if I have to. And the money's going on drugs.
I stopped enjoying the sex. To be honest with you, it's stopped being an experiment. Like finding out new like sexual things I enjoy to fucking hell, I hate this. You know, like I just wanted the money and I just wanted the drugs. I didn't want to have sex with these guys. If I could get away with giving a hand job for €200, I would. You know, it wasn't.
What was the most perverted thing you've ever done? You've been
Explain what you mean by that.
What was like one of the most perverted things? You know, you look back now and think, "Fuck, that was weird." Maybe there's someone's asked you to do
the weirdest like sexual act. Can I go into detail?
Yeah. Listen, this is it all.
Okay. I don't know if you've heard of a thing called sounding. No. Sounding is basically where guys have metal rods put down their penis. Yeah. Most guys would squirm at even the thought of that.
Yeah, I am.
But it starts off as a thin rod and it goes to a bigger rod, and you're looking at rods like the size of your thumb. And I had this guy who actually happened to be a brain surgeon by trade. So this is the only reason I trusted this guy. If this went wrong, I was like, I'd done sounding a lot anyway, but this guy liked me to do it until he bled. I was on top of this guy, ramming these sounding rods down him whilst he's erect doing this, bleeding. I'm covered in blood. He paid me over €1,000 just to do this, and he loved every minute of it. And I think, what the fuck? Like, how can you? How can you enjoy that? But I was known for my BDSM. I was known for the extreme stuff. So I was getting more and more requests like that. Because my attitude was, if I do one weird thing like that, that pays me what 5 normal things do. So knife play become a thing, sounding become a thing, fire play become a thing. Everything just got more.
So
extreme.
what I'm assuming, like water sports and shit, is just nothing to you.
That's little, you know. When you're doing knife play and like hook suspension was my thing as well. I don't know if you've heard of hook suspension.
Like dangling people on them.
Yeah, it's basically you put metal hooks through the skin and hang them from the ceiling. And you do it from anal plugs as well. So it's a plug that goes into your anus and you hang them from the ceiling. Yeah.
And you've done all these and you know how to do these.
Yeah.
Things. Did you have to go for like on a college course for this type of stuff? Or did you learn this stuff?
There's not courses to do these guys.
So it's Wild West, like literally.
Yeah,
enter at your own risk, like.
You're learning from like online stuff, to be honest. It was the internet that taught me. Hook suspension, there's a lot of courses.
Was there any clients that you'd like try and avoid? Like, fuck, there he is.
Any scat clients? scat and things like that, I just
if they wanted to scat on you or the other way around, or was it
I
any?
would never let guys scat on me. That was the rule. I hate shit. I hate the smell of shit. It's just horrible. But any scat clients, like, I just don't get it. But sometimes I do it because I need money, but I don't get it. Like, I had
And
this.
what if? Yeah, go on.
I had this, like, he was actually a celebrity in Amsterdam. It was I'm not going to say the trade, but he was on television, you know.
Presenter.
Yeah. But basically, I'd go to his house. He'd have about 5 bags of cocaine on the table for me. He'd be under one of those, those like toilet seats without the toilet, like the potty seats. He'd be lying underneath it, and I'd be sat on top, shitting in his mouth with a dildo in his ass. And that's what he'd ask me to do once a month. And he loved
And
it.
you need the cocaine just because it would go straight through you, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You need a shit afterwards.
So I think that's why he gave me the cocaine, thinking back. But yeah,
and they love it, like
they love every moment of it. They're paying you 150, 200 euros an hour to do this. It's like, I don't get it personally. What happened to hugs and kisses? Eh?
Oh, okay. So you're starting to deteriorate then, and then you end up in a hostel. And how did this happen? How did you go from
Well, it was a avalanche of terrible things happening. I was living in Sloterdijk, which is like the Moroccan area in Amsterdam. That was really good. And basically, I was at home there, and I was like, I want to live in Amsterdam. I want to live in the main street.
Not Sloterdijk.
Yeah, not Sloterdijk. I was like, I'm earning good money. Why the fuck am I living here? I was like, okay, I'll move to one of the main streets in Amsterdam. And I moved in. The guy who actually arranged this for me was one of the security guards in a coffee shop who I knew. He was like an agency guy as well. So I trusted him. A week later, I was thrown out for being transgender. Literally. Thrown out for being trans. And that's how people are, and
even in the most accepted city in Europe, you're going to get it.
And like, the contract wasn't proper, you know what I mean? It was a dodgy contract. It was, everything about it was dodgy. And I was thrown out, and the police literally done nothing. The guy who arranged it for me denied that he had anything to do with it. All I was told was people could see that there was a tranny living in my house. And from then on, I started living in hotels and things because I had literally spent my last money to move into this place. I had to spend 6 months up front. So I'd a lot invested in this. So I had fuck all money left. And then that week as well, my bank account gets shut down. And so my bank account was frozen. So I had no money. I ended up in hostels, no hotels, sorry. I was like, right, I need to go home. Gets to the airport with my one friend. He then told me, I'll pay for a month in a hostel if you don't want to go. Because I didn't want to go. Moved in. And that's really how I got to that hostel position, really.
And then that's where you found heroin.
Yeah, basically that was Oostpark. Oostpark is one of the biggest parks for crack and heroin dealers. They swarm it like bats. And when I moved in, imagine me, I've got bags and bags of dildos and sex toys. That's my main possession. And so I'm lugging all this shit around. And I had drawers in this hostel full. And these rooms were shared rooms. So the other people who moved in with me as well, who stay in the night or stay in a week or whatever, they were having to be in a room with some cracked up heroin addict with dildos next to them. They didn't want to stay very long, as you can imagine. And then I was thrown out. And I lived in that park. I just stayed in that park because had my drugs. I could beg for money. You know, it wasn't hard stretch for me to stay living there because I had all I wanted.
Begging.
Yeah, I had gone from being a sex worker to begging. You know, it went downhill very quick.
Could you still do the sex work, or was it at a point now where you think, you know, it would be tough to go into a window? Is it? Or?
I didn't look very attractive at this point. You know, I was a hardcore addict. I got thrown out of the one window brothel. I was told I couldn't work there anymore. I was still doing bits of sex work for Boys Club. They were calling me in now and again for like the regulars I had for years. But at this point, I wasn't interested. I could make 200, 300 euros a day from begging, you know? So why would I do anything else? I had my crack, I had my heroin. That's all I was interested in, really.
You go to prison
Yeah.
for stabbing a security guard.
Yeah, not with a knife.
Oh, that's okay.
With a heroin needle.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Do you want to go through the story?
Yeah. At this point, I was on probation just for just being a general nuisance, to be honest with you. And my methadone clinic, which I was going to, the security guards, to be honest with you, were bullies. They hated me. I don't know whether it was because I was trans or because I wasn't from...
On the meth. Could be anything.
Yeah, judging me for being an addict. Whatever. They didn't like me. I had a crutch at this point because I couldn't walk properly. And
you really fucking was.
Yeah, I was
written off. Like.
I was written off completely. This is why I couldn't do the sex work. No one wants a sex worker.
Well, they might want it up their ass. I don't know.
You never know. But yeah, I was hopping in, and they would take my crutches off me before I got through the metal detectors, just to piss me off. And they'd be like carrying me in, and it was horrible. But they were always very rude to me and confrontational to me. And one day, this one guy who I used to call 50 pence because he had gold teeth and he was a bit of a knob, but he made a comment about me being trans. So I'm not proud of this. I stabbed him with a used heroin needle and told him he was going to get HIV, which, as you can imagine, probably scared him. Shouldn't have done that, but I did, and I'm not proud of it, you know, because this man was probably petrified, you know, he probably thought he was going to get HIV. But if anything, that shows you what drugs do to you. Like, I wouldn't do that sober in a million years, but I did because of drugs, and that broke my probation. Next thing I know, I'm in a prison in Holland, a male prison at first. I got told by the prison guards that you're here because you've still got a dick. And I was mistreated quite badly for the first 3 days. And then I was told you're going to South Holland to Zwolle to go to a female prison, which is also a psychiatric prison. And that was the relief, you know. I was to be looked after, you know. They realised I wasn't well. Like, I'd done these things not because I'm a bad person, and not just because of the drugs. Like I said at the beginning, I hear voices, you know. I have a lot of psychiatric problems, and that's why the psychiatric prison. And that was when I first started getting the help I needed, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's deep.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it is deep. It is deep. Just a quick one on the prison thing. If you done something wrong now and went to prison, what prison would you expect to go to? A
female prison. I'm legally female now, so yeah, it's a female prison.
Okay, so you get released from prison. You started crying. Your family got in touch, yeah.
Yeah.
But they never knew, did they?
I never told them, no. I did think about, should I call him? But basically, I had a phone at the time when I was in prison. I didn't have it in prison. The guards had it, obviously. And I got told during my whole stay, we'll get the number from your phone. We'll get the number from your phone. But they never did.
Yeah, that's typical prison.
Yeah, so they never knew.
So once you're out on the streets again, you get into a big fight, yeah, and you meet a guy.
Oh, yeah. Basically, I was with a close friend who I was sleeping with at the time. Got out of prison. It was like the day after I hadn't had sex for a few months. So I was like, go see
Active
him.
again, yeah.
And we had a big row. We were both on crack. So it was an argument over crack, to be honest with you. And I stormed out. Well, he threw me out. And I'm walking down the street. I smoking a cigarette, and I bumped into this guy who said, "Oh, what's wrong?" Because he could see me crying, and I told him, I said, "I'm fucked. I got nowhere to go." And he was a very flamboyant guy, you know. I could tell he was gay just by looking at him, and he very kindly said, "At first, you can come live with me for the night. Just come stay, or you can stay on the sofa, that kind of thing." I come into his house, and it was very clear he was there to have sex with me. That was at first. It wasn't. He didn't want me just to stay on the sofa, you know. He wanted to have sex in return for it, and yeah, that developed into a relationship. And I stayed there until the drugs got really bad. He ended up dying through self-harm, which is rough. And I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to get triggered.
Yeah, that's fine. You was there though, was you?
Yeah. And I called the ambulance, and the police turned up. And they actually took me into a cell for 3 days. Because in Holland, they can take you into a cell for 3 days, not 24 hours. I think it's 24 hours in this country. It's 3 days.
24, but they can redo,
Is there?
replenish it type of thing. Yeah,
It's 3 days over there.
Wipe it there. That's it.
It's 3 days over there. And they kept me there, interviewing me over and over again. They thought I killed him. And that was traumatic for me, you know. And when I left, he was gone. So the biggest mistake I made then, I knew the house was the only place I could go. So it was boarded up by the police because it was a crime scene, you know. Broke in through the window. So I knew there was drugs in the building. That was the main reason. And I thought, somewhere to stay. Basically took all the drugs in the house. Ecstasy, crystal, GHB, everything that was there. Next thing I know, I wake up in hospital. They found me outside a hotel, covered in writing, head to toe, naked. And I still to this day do not know how I got to that point. Drugs are scary, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was then admitted to, at first it was a rehab to get me off the GHB. So they were giving me GHB gradually. They realised then my mental health was dire. So they put me in the mental health side of it. It's called Mentrum. It's similar to Landoc. Basically, it's a mental health facility. It's paid for by your private insurance. So it was it was good. You know, they treated me very well.
Yeah.
That then resulted me to be repatriated, so technically deported from the Netherlands. And I then arrived February last year, and I was sent to Landoc. I was there for a few months, and then I entered the homeless system.
Where you are now.
There I am now.
There you are now. You're still using at the moment.
I'm not like I used to be.
Yeah.
I still use sporadically. I have a drink now and again. I use now and again, but I'm not nowhere near the level I was using before.
Are you a million miles away from where you was though?
Completely. I'm me again. I'm not a nasty person anymore. I like to think I'm a good person. I help people, you know. I volunteer in
the NSP.
Yeah.
I'm doing good things, you know, and
Positive thing.
positive things. Yeah, it's a million miles away from what I was doing before, and it's going reasonably well.
Yeah. How are you dealing with your mental health?
I get a lot of support now. I'm on antipsychotics, so the voices are lesser. The voices are still there. Especially being in a room like this, to be honest with you, is difficult because it's quite echoey.
Yeah.
And it's the silence in between, so I do hear voices, and it's not nice. And you probably noticed the whole way through my leg shakes. So that's saying I'm still struggling.
It's an incredibly brave thing you've done, opening up
Thank
to
you.
the people who will watch us.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know that you doing this without you realizing you're helping a lot of people.
I hope so.
You're fighting on so many fronts.
Yeah.
The autism in itself is a massive problem in life that we, more as of recent we've raised awareness on it. But that in itself, then you've got the stigma of being trans, then the addiction, all these things that you've had to overcome. It seems like you've overcome the stigma with the trans because you're very proud with who you are, what body you're in.
Yeah.
It seems like you're respected everywhere you go. I've seen you in work and that, and people accept you for who you are, which is amazing. Society is becoming a better place. Do you think that if you was born, say now the time we're in now, or if you was born 10 years ago and you was 13 again, you wouldn't be in the situation you're in now?
I probably would have never gone to Amsterdam. I probably wouldn't have needed to. There's a gender team here now. They get support. I don't regret everything in Amsterdam, but in whole, it was probably a bad move. But yeah, I probably would never have gone. And I would have had the support at home, and I would have been able to transition. I probably would have been able to pay for my top surgery by other means. And I probably would have had my bottom surgery by now,
Yeah, it's one of those things that we got to look at in here and just say, what if? But hopefully you're an example for thousands,
Yeah.
We'll always say woulda, shoulda, coulda, but it is a fucking shame to think that, you going to Amsterdam, leading the path you did. Yeah, like you said, you had some great times, but it led you on to addiction and stuff. And it's all down to understanding. It's all down to perception, stigma of somebody, of what they identify as. And I think that's a massive shame. And we've got to learn a lesson from that we've just got to be more accepting and understanding of people, because look at the consequences, the fallout that comes from it when we don't.
Like, the thing I would say is, like, if you've got someone in your life with addiction issues, don't criticize them constantly. Be there for them. Tell them the good things. If you're going to remind them that they're fucking up every day, as you're aware, that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear what's going well, because if you're told negative stuff every day, that's when you hit the bottle. That's when you use. That's when it goes wrong. Just be there for them and remind them that they're good people.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
Yeah. I think you was really amazing. What is it you want in life now?
Well, the big thing now is the big thing now. Obviously, I've got my bottom surgery lined up. I just had my second signature, so in the next year I'll be having that operation. I'm in an amazing relationship now. I'm just genuinely happy all round, and once the surgery is done, like, my mission is complete, really. Yeah.
Down that camera. Oh, Harrison, maybe you've got a question? Like to lead it out down the camera. Anything positive, a message you want to say to the people out there, someone who might be going through a similar situation that you went through at 13, 14?
If you're trans, if you're an addict, just keep going, and there will be change. And if you're fighting the doctors to get your hormones, you're fighting the doctors to have your operation, just keep pushing, and you will get to that goal eventually. You know.
Thank you so much, Loon. Honestly, I want to shake your hand. I want to give you a hug, but I will in a minute. Thank you so much. Are you on any social media or anything? Like, I'm just thinking if anyone wants to support you.
Yeah, I am. It's Stella Star on Twitter and on Instagram.
Okay, we'll plug that on there
Yeah.
for you. Yeah, guys, if you want to support Luna through her journey, please do. Follow her on social media. It's Stella Star on Instagram and Twitter. And thank you. You know, leave a comment. Tell us what you think. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. Stay central.
The Central Club.